Hello everyone, in this video I'll be giving you a Melee Spore Druid build guide for Baldurs Gate 3. This will also involve the Bard, as there's some really unique synergy that we can combine here. This was a requested video, so without further ado, let's get into things here. So you can start as either the Bard or as the Druid, as both of these classes are actually going to be really strong to start off with, and we're going to be taking 6 levels of each. So I'm going to start with the Druid myself because I find that this is a very powerful class and a fun one to have early on, as the Druid at level 1 is probably the strongest because it gets Shillelagh, which allows it to attack with its club and deal a ton of damage, although starting with the Bard can also be a really nice start. So go with whatever one of these two that you prefer, but for the purpose of this we're going to go with the Druid, as we get Shillelagh here, which allows us to imbue our club and allow it to do 4 to 11 bludgeoning damage, and using our wisdom as our spell casting, our attack rolls. So I also like Thorn Whip, as it pulls the creature 3 meters closer. If you do this near a ledge, you can actually pull them off, which is nice because it'll deal damage with the fall. And for our ability score, this is where things get really complex, because we're combining a class that relies on wisdom and one that relies on charisma. So I think that the best way to handle this would be to, if you're in Act 1, you can get the Gloves of Dexterity and dump your Dexterity. I think that that's kind of a crucial thing to go with for this build, because the Gloves of Dexterity just allow us some freedom with our stats. So if you don't want to, I'd still keep your Dexterity around 14. Something like this would be okay, or actually take this probably up to somewhere's like this, maybe. Put that there, and then take our intelligence up. I guess something like this would work, but if we are able to dump our dexterity, that gives us a lot more freedom to take the charisma up a little bit higher, and then also take our constitution up. For the purposes of this, we're going to go with something like this for our ability scores, and then you can put the last 2 points in either intelligence or strength, whichever one you prefer. Now, this build actually gets pretty crazy, and I'm going to go into the specifics of the build throughout this video, but I'm going to be doing the leveling, and then we'll get to the gear options at the later half of the video. So for our subclass, we're obviously going Circle of Spores. This is actually interesting because when we're in our symbiotic entity form, we deal an additional 1 to 6 damage with when we have our symbiotic entity up. So we'll be dealing extra necrotic damage, which is always nice to add. And also, whenever we use the symbiotic entity, it does use one of our wild shape forms. We can also cast Halo of Spores as a reaction, which is nice, but a majority of the damage that we're going to be dealing is melee, as that's the point of this build. But what's nice is the Bard actually can attack 4 times per turn without haste. So that lets us do a crazy amount of damage. And if we do have haste, it gets even further damaging. So for our prepared spells, I think that it's best to take Healing Word, as Healing Word gives us a ranged heal. So if a teammate goes down, bring them back up with Healing Word. I would not recommend using this in combat unless you don't have a better use for your bonus action. Now, Create Water is just fantastic to always have, as a Storm Sorcerer or anyone that has lightning damage can benefit greatly from this, as it'll double their damage, as well as any cold spells, which we do have, such as Ice Knife, but I do think it's good to go with Create Water. Thunderwave for the pushback is actually quite nice too, because sometimes you can get a easy elimination with that. Long Strider for the extra movement speed is nice, but I recommend having someone like a Bard at your camp that can apply this to your team, because that just frees up the spell slots. And I think Ice Knife is a decent spell for damage. And then also Fog Cloud for great crowd control early game. But a majority of our damage is going to be coming from Shillelagh and just meleeing people. We also get Bone Chill as a cantrip, which is nice. At level 3, this is where we get some further increased leveled spells. Now, Spike Growth is a really nice one to take. It's a crowd control damage spell, so that's just great for overall just controlling the battlefield. Hold Person, another really great spell, and there's some unique synergy with this, but we can get Hold Person from the Bard itself, so it might be best to not take it with the Druid, as you could take some other ones like Heat Metal or Flaming Spear if you want it. But the nice thing about the Druid is you can prepare any of these spells at any time. Flame Blade's also a pretty decent one. This uses Wisdom as a spellcasting modifier. You can get a permanent Flame Blade. I have a video on how to get a permanent one if you want. But we're gonna go with Flaming Spear just because it's nice to have an extra body to take hits. Flaming Spear counts as like a summon, so you can use that to just draw aggro away from you. Now the Deep Rothe form is pretty decent. It can be one that we could use, but I wouldn't recommend always using it. Guidance is a good one. Produce Flame can be also pretty nice. Produce Flame can deal upwards of 24 damage at max level, and you can throw the Produce Flame, so that can be a good one if you already have someone that does Guidance. And for our next leveled spell, I would probably take something like... Hold Purse is not bad early on, I guess, so we'll take that. And for our feat, I was thinking about adding in Dual Wielder, and then going this way with 2 staffs. So you can go with the dual wielding and go about it that way. I'm going to be using a shield to get the armor class even higher, because we can use a shield as a druid, so that's a really nice bonus. But the dual wielder with 2 staffs can also work. I'm just going to take the wisdom up to 18 just to help with any attack rolls that we have, since we can use Shillelagh to imbue our weapon and increase the overall attack rolls. At level 5 though, we get Wild Strike, which is an additional attack while in wild shape. And we get Animate Dead for free, so this is awesome. We get a free Animate Dead spell alongside Gaseous Form, and at next level we're going to get another one. So, as for our spell selection, Call Lightning is almost a no-brainer when we have Create Water, because we can use this. If we're low on spells, we can use this continually as a concentration without expending a spell slot, which is amazing. And then also, I really like Plant Growth. This doesn't require concentration, but it does a really great crowd control by quartering movement speed. So something like that. If an enemy gets caught in Plant Growth, oftentimes it will dash and use up its action for the turn, so that can be really nice just for shutting down the team. But Animate Dead is a really big spell here that we get at level 5, and then at level 6 we get another one with Fungal Infestation. So this uses a Fungal Infestation charge. You can raise a mildewed, mold, encrusted zombie from a corpse. So this brings a zombie. We also get the Panther and the Owlbear form. These are like our oh shit moments. If we ever get in a pickle, we can pop that, and it'll help us stay alive. But we're mostly going to want to be in our symbiotic entity form. And for the spell that we'll take at next level, I think it's pretty solid to go with like a Sleet Storm for upsetting concentration. We don't got a whole lot of spells here to choose from, so something like that will work. Now that's level 7, we do get our level 4 spells, and there's some really nice ones here. I wish I could have taken the Woodland Being, but we're going to be doing 6 levels of this and then 6 levels of the Bard, as this is going to be more so of a melee class. I also considered going with a Fighter and 1-level Wizard. I will be exploring that a little bit further, but from what I've tested, the Bard actually ends up being stronger, so that's why we're going to go with that. And Minor Illusion is an amazing cantrip. I recommend taking it. Vicious Mockery is just fun for the insults that your character will make, so you can take that. It's not the best cantrip, but if you got nothing else, it's there. As for our spells, we got a lot of overlap here, and that's what I was talking about earlier, but it says we have Long Strider, but we'll take something like this for our spells. Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Dissonant Whispers, Heroism, and Long Strider. As we're already getting a lot of these other spells, you can even go Speak with Animals if you wanted instead of like Heroism. Starting Instrument, your choice. And Skill Proficiency, I would recommend like Stealth. Stealth's always a good one to have if you want to be focusing more so on melee. Not a bad idea also to go with Athletics for the resistance of getting shoved. But we'll go with that here. And the Sword Bard is the class that we're going to be going with. So we get our Song of Rest, so an extra bonus. Short Rest is awesome. And also the Jack of All Trades, adding half our proficiency bonus to anything that we're not proficient in. As for the next level spell that we're going to learn, since there's so much overlap, maybe I wouldn't even take Sleep this late. It's counting these that we already have, even if we don't have them prepared, since the Druid can prepare their own spells, whereas the Bard does not have that ability. So we could go with like Bane is not amazing. Cure Wounds can be an okay heal if you need another oh crap heal. It's listing that we have these. Animal Friendship will probably go with there. So yeah, there is some overlap in terms of the spells here, but we're going to be picking the College of Swords here. So the reason I want to select this is we get the Defensive Flourish to increase our armor class is always nice, but the Slashing Flourish is the one that I wanted to focus on. So attack 2 enemies at once, and we can do this with our weapon here. So we're able to deal that additional necrotic damage from the Spore Druid to 2 targets per 1 attack. And then what's nice is we get 2 attacks, we can do this twice. And on top of that, if you get haste, you can do it 4 times for a total of 8 attacks with that additional necrotic damage. So 8d6 of necrotic damage that we would not have normally gotten is quite nice, if you ask me. And at level 2, I think that a good one, Cloud of Daggers is never a bad idea for early game damage, but Later in the game, it loses a bit of its thunder, I guess. We can go with Silence, too. Silence is a really nice spell. As for our fighting style, this entirely depends. If you're going with the dual-wielding version of this, which I talked about, you can take the earlier perk as the dual wielder. Go with this to add your ability modifier to the damage of the attack. I think that we're going to go with dueling, though, as it adds 2 damage to the weapon that we're going to be attacking with, so that's kind of nice. That 2 damage over 8 attacks, that ends up being 16 extra damage, which is awesome. And you can use a shield. I had someone that said you can't, but it literally says right there, if you read the last little paragraph, you can carry a shield in your free hand and still gain this bonus. So we can use a shield. It just says it right there. So College of Swords, we get that extra attack at level 6. That's why I said I wish we could take the 7th level of Druid to get the extra summons. But I am exploring the possibility of like a fighter, maybe even with 7 levels of Spore Druid, 5 levels of fighter, or 7 levels of Spore Druid, or 6 levels Spore Druid, and then 5 levels of fighter, 1 level of wizard to pick our spells. But yeah, for this, we're going to go with the level 4 here. Take another cantrip. Mage Hand or Friends. If you're the face of the party, take Friends. Mage Hand can help set up by dropping water balls and throwing them, or throwing health potions too. And as for our next spell, Invisibility or Silence. Those would be my 2 recommendations. Invisibility has a lot of usefulness if you have a party that's built for it. And then Silence is good just to shut down casters. I'll go with Silence just to change things up a little bit. Now, for our feat, this is where it can get interesting, because if we're using Shillelagh, we're going to be using Wisdom as our attack rolls. So we can use that ability improvement to take our Wisdom up a little bit higher. Warcaster is okay for giving advantage on saving throws and maintain concentration on a spell. I wouldn't recommend it fully for this. Sentinel can be nice too to use a reaction to attack, but we do get a reaction from the Spore Druid. Alert is another great choice. +5 to initiative, can't be surprised. Always good to take. I think the best option is to go with our Wisdom up to 20. Reason being is this staff will get even stronger with the Shillelagh, so we're going to go with that. And you could also go with an increase of Charisma, but I think it's best to go with higher Wisdom. Now, at level 5, we get our Bardic Inspiration up to 1d8, so that's nice, a little bit extra damage. And then we get some spells that we don't get from the wizard or the Druid. I love Glyph of Warding. This is an incredibly powerful spell that's underrated. You can choose the damage type that it brings. It doesn't require concentration. It's basically like a mine that enemies can step on. Super powerful. Now at level 6, this is where the build comes fully online. We get our counter charm, which is nice. Advantage on saving throws against being charmed. But the extra attack. So we get 2 attacks with our club. And those 2 attacks can attack 2 people. So you can see where this is going. It adds the necrotic damage to our attacks as well. I also really like Fear. Targets drop everything and become fearful. They have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls. What makes this so powerful is, I'm going to get into why it can be so powerful, because there is some gear options that can make this build absolutely crazy. But this makes the enemy drop their weapons, which you can pick up, then they become useless. So we're going with that. Now this build is interesting because it does rely on some gear to make it really overpowered, but as you can see, we got a decent armor class of 22. So this is from our dexterity gloves, giving us the +4, +3 from the shield. And then I have the Helm of Baldur, Cloak of Protection, Evasive Shoes and Rings of Protection, all for the +4 armor class total. I'm using the Wave Mother's Robe, although this is not the best. I just did it for the appearance of the video, because I find that I have better retention on videos that have that armor equipped. What makes this build crazy is the Armor of the Spore Keeper, which takes our armor class up to 24. So +1 to spell save DC, and when dealing necrotic damage, they deal an additional 1 necrotic damage. Huge. So that 8 attacks that I talked about, we get an extra 8 necrotic damage. And we get the Spore Sacks, which is really broken because it gives us and our entire team haste. I don't see enough people talking about how powerful that is, but it is incredibly busted. 24 armor class is nothing to shy away from either. It's really nice. Also, we can use the Staff of Cherished Necromancy here. It actually does a bit more bludgeoning damage, and it has built-in necrotic damage, so this can give us a bit further of an attack. Damage is pretty decent, all things considering. But what makes this so powerful is what we are about to do. So we can use our Shillelagh here. This makes it so Wisdom is our modifier for the weapon there. And then takes its damage up a bit and our hit chance. So +5 from the wisdom, +2 from the weapon enchantment. So our attack rolls are going to be actually quite good with this. So 95% chance to hit there, which is awesome. As far as the gear options, I like the amulet of greater health because otherwise our health would be a little bit lower. There are some other options that we can go with earlier in the game. Really take whatever you find has best. The spell Amulet of Devout can be pretty good, but it takes our health from 87 up to 135. So I would recommend having this on this class because this is going to be, it's a tanky class in ways, but it also benefits from the extra health that we can get anywheres. Gloves of Dexterity, as I mentioned, but also the Crypt Lord Ring gives us Create Undead. So this is a level 6 necromancy spell that we normally would be missing out on. So further goes into the summoning category of this build, which is really nice. So we can have a few different summons at one time. So we can have our Flaming Spear there. Unfortunately, level 7 would be where we get our minor elementals and the Wood Woad. We can also go with like Animate Dead because we get this from the Spore Druid. And on top of that, we also get our fungal encrusted summons too. So when we're in our symbiotic entity form, so pretty funky animation. I love it. When we're in this form, we get something really powerful with the haste spores. So you want your entire team to get this, and I'll show you why. So haste spores hits a pretty large area, but then we get the 2 actions from it, which is just broken. So even our Flaming Spear will get that extra bonus, or to get the extra action. I guess it only has a bonus action. Our summons would normally get it. We get a nice +24 health. Even he got the bonus from the haste spores, so those 2 actions go a long way. You can have your whole team walk inside of it to get the extra actions, which is awesome. Fungal Infestation, this is how we get the zombie to pop up. So this is our Spore Druid exclusive one. This'll be mean. I love Vicious Mockery. That's why I took it. But yeah, we got that Song of Rest, which is awesome. We get our also Bitterbang Spores and Tin Mask Spores. This comes from the Armor of the Spore Keeper, which further enhances our necrotic damage. But when we attack, you can see there, 15 to 28 damage. This is actually pretty good melee damage. And I was actually requested to be able to attack with the Staff of Cherished Necromancy, which you can do. So there it is. She can't be hurt, but Shillelagh, that is where this build gets really powerful because we can use this as a bonus action to imbue our club, and it gives it that extra damage. I guess I should check it again. So 12 to 27, plus 1d4 necrotic, plus 1d6 necrotic, and then our chest armor here deals an additional 1 necrotic damage. And we just literally have to go in and attack. We can use our slashing flourishes too, which is nice. So this gives us 13 to 33 damage to 2 enemies, so upwards of 66 damage would be really great. So the slashing flourish is unreal. I would also recommend having the Hellfire Hand crossbow and the Fire Stoker for bows, just to have a ranged option as well if you don't want to cast a spell. But we have full spell casting, we have full melee. This build is pretty interesting. The ability to be able to be a caster and a melee class is incredible, and we also get the ability to haste our team and haste our entire team, which is awesome. On top of all that, we get the Song of Rest for an extra short rest. Lots of utility. We can summon in different creatures, and we also get a wild shape. If everything goes rough, we can just literally turn into an owlbear, and that'll give us an extra 65 health there. So if everything goes rough, owlbear it out. And yeah, this build is pretty powerful. It has a lot of synergy with any type of class or any team that you have. So there it is, a Melee Spore Druid Bard build guide for Baldur's Gate 3. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next video.